What's going on? What's going on, people? Street, we're back in the building, and we're here for a Liverpool West Ham preview, match day 6, as you guys can obviously see on the screen. As we know, Liverpool are unbeaten heading into this game at Anfield. West Ham, I think, are currently sitting in 6th position in the league. I believe they are 3 points behind Liverpool, so they can go level with Liverpool with a victory at Anfield. It's going to be a very, very interesting game. We've seen, all the talk from Mikel Antonio. He's kind of done our team talk really for us, if I'm being totally honest with you. Obviously, at the time of this video in itself, as I know, Thiago will not be featuring, and there's still some potential issues with Trent Alexander-Arnold. We also don't know about Jarrell Kwanzaa, whether he's going to be fit or not, and obviously Ryan Gravenberch. Obviously, I will get into my predicted lineup, obviously with that kind of news, but things could potentially change over the next couple of days. But we shall wait and see, guys. Please make sure you like. Please make sure you share. Please make sure you do subscribe to the channel, and make sure you drop your predictions as well for the game. Without further ado, let's get into it.
Now you know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Table turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep fitting in love.
What's going on, my people? What is going on? Yes, we are back with the match reaction. It's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a really, really interesting game this weekend. Liverpool versus West Ham. As I mentioned before, obviously Mikel Antonio, he's given everyone the team talk. If I'm being totally honest with you, but also as well, take it with a pinch of salt. It's a bit of light-hearted fun. I know a lot of Liverpool fans were a bit testy, obviously listening to what Mikel Antonio had to say, and all these kind of various different things. But to be honest, I wasn't really too fussed. I wasn't really too angry. I felt like it's just one of them kind of things, man. One of them kind of things. And ultimately we all know the kind of record that West Ham do have against Liverpool. In the in the last 26 games, there have been 16 wins for Liverpool, 4 draws, and only 6 wins for West Ham. I mean, look, the last game we played against them, we beat them 2-1. That was at the London Stadium. Before that, 1-0 to us again. They beat us last time. They beat us was 3-2 back in November of 2021. So it's been a couple of years anyway since they've actually recorded victory against us. So listen, it's all fun. It's all games, whatever it is, mind games, all that kind of stuff. But, let's wait until the game in itself. Let's wait until the fixture, because hopefully we'll be the ones who are laughing at the end of it. And then, we just keep it moving. We do all of our talking, on the actual pitch in itself. But yes, guys, please, most importantly, as I mentioned before, please make sure you like, please make sure you share, subscribe. We're on the road to 900 subs as we speak. So hopefully we can get to that number very, very soon. Now, today, just going to take a quick look, give you my predicted lineup for the game. Also, the couple key players I think who will be, ultimately key for West Ham in this game, the areas in which they could potentially hurt us and things like that. What we potentially might need to do in the game, how we could potentially get victory, and, all that kind of good stuff. But first and foremost, let's get into what my own, predicted lineup for the game will be. Yes. So obviously what I have got here, I'll show you guys here. So obviously I've gone with the 4-3-3. It's the 4-3-3. Do you know what I mean? Let me not even. Do you know what I mean? It is what it is. As I mentioned before, obviously Trent Alexander-Arnold. We don't know if he's. I don't know at the time of this video. I don't know if this guy's going to be injured, if he's going to be available. Have no clue. Obviously Ryan Gravenberch obviously picked up a little something, in the Europa League game where he was actually really, really good. He might potentially be back in time. So I'm going off the basis that there's no Ryan Gravenberch, there's no Trent Alexander-Arnold. Anyone else to really think about? Obviously, Virgil van Dijk, we know, is still suspended for the game. To my knowledge, yet he's suspended just for this last game, and then he should be back. He should actually be back for the League Cup game we've got in midweek against Leicester City. So yeah, I'm just going off of that basis in itself. Again, if anything changes, then of course my lineup will be a little bit different. But this is kind of the formation that I'm going with, which is 4-3-3. I would have said box, but I feel like he isn't going to play a box like that. What I would like to see probably would be the actual, the actual box midfield, to be honest with you. And maybe in certain phases of the play, he could potentially do that. But I feel like if he's going to go with like a 4-3-3, if there is no Trent and, the inverted thing, I just don't really think works. I mean, we saw it with Bajcetic in the week. I don't think it will work anyway in that kind of position. It might do over time, but right now, no. Gomez, no. You need someone who's really, really comfortable on the ball in that kind of position, who's got decent passing range, someone who could be trusted in defensive transitions, in that kind of area. I don't feel like Gomez, hits any of those kind of requirements. So having him play in that kind of inverted role, I feel like if you're going to do inverted, your best bet probably would be to utilize Andrew Robertson instead, but, we'll get into it anyway. We'll get into it. So, as you guys can obviously see on the screen, here is my defense for the game. As I mentioned before, Virgil van Dijk is suspended. So, look, Kelleher obviously played in midweek. Obviously, we know Alisson, that's always a given. On the left, obviously, Robbo, again, coming back in after Tsimikas obviously replaced him during the week at right wing back. Again, that was kind of like the position. But if this is, again, based on if Trent is not going to play, then I will have Joe Gomez in that position. I cannot think of anyone else. And then obviously the two centre-backs, again, I'll go with Konate and Matip for this. Although, again, that might also... Well, no, you know what, actually, I probably will go with Konate and Matip because, obviously, to deal with the kind of threat that Michail Antonio is going to pose, he'll bully Kwanzaa. He'll definitely bully him. He's definitely bigger. He's definitely stronger than he is. And it will be too much of a target, in my personal opinion. I mean, Klopp could surprise us. He could surprise us and say, you know what, Kwanzaa, you go in there. Do you get what I mean? Maybe he might put that trust, that faith in him. I'm not saying you couldn't, but it will be an area that West Ham will definitely, and especially if Michail Antonio is going to be playing, it's definitely going to be an area where he's going to be licking his lips, because he's going to be thinking, well, I don't need to then go towards, Konate. I can easily just stick myself on Joao Kwanzaa, bully him in that back line there, and then, kind of go from there. But again, at the same time, Joao Kwanzaa's then still got to learn in these kind of situations. So I put Matip there for now. I wouldn't be surprised if I did see Kwanzaa in that position. Would I be mad with him in that position? Nah, I don't think I would, I actually don't think I actually would be, that mad to see him in that kind of position. But obviously, as I mentioned before, it's one of those kind of, wait and see situations. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, the wing-back positions kind of speak for themselves. Really, there's no one else there. I'm not going to play Tsimikas in that position. All I realistically do want to see, though, is I don't really want to be seeing really that inverted role from Joe Gomez on that side. I'd prefer if we just kept it, just keep it to a flat back four, to be honest with you. West Ham are going to be tricky to play against, I think, anyway. And I think we are not a perfect team, but we are an ideal team for the way that they kind of set up. That's why I feel that, even with our attack and things like that, I think that they would look at this kind of game as difficult as, obviously, it's Liverpool. Liverpool's back line ain't really popping like that at all. Missing a couple of players in there. Defensively this season, we haven't really looked that good. We haven't really looked that strong. So, it's one of those ones. They might be looking at this game and they know how we might want to come out in the game as well. So I feel like maybe they might look at it and think, yeah, do you know what? Maybe we can sit back, counter. And obviously, if we keep leaving the spaces in behind, that's going to cause a problem. That's where your Gomez and Konate obviously come into it, two very, very quick defenders. This is where we're going to need them, especially down the sides, especially that right side. That right side for me is not as stable as the left side, as it's always kind of been really since Trent kind of came into the team and we've had a settled kind of back line. It's never really been, it's always been the side kind of thing where you're like, oh yeah, it could be some problems defensively there. And obviously, again, it just depends on who's going to be on that side. I predict potentially Paqueta, and he's someone who likes to kind of drop infield, come inside a lot more than as opposed to kind of staying out there on the wings. I don't know what David Moyes might try and do, but I feel like that's what he'll probably do is stick Paqueta out there. And then obviously you've got that kind of, he starts to free roam. That might create space for other players. Mikel Antonio might then drop into the wing position to create space. Jared Bowen potentially coming in from the other wing. There's so many if, buts, ands, or maybes. I just feel that maybe we just want to just be a little bit cautious on that side, but really from both sides, if I'm being totally honest with you. Again, just dependent on, who they decide to play. So we're going to really need to be switched on in this game. I think, of course, we'll have the lion's share of possession at the back there. Just need to be as comfortable on the ball. No silly mistakes, I beg. Don't be stupid. Keep it neat and tidy at the back. Don't leave too much space in behind, because really and truly, that's what West Ham want. That's what Mikel Antonio wants. He wants to be able to run into those spaces. So let's not really give it to him. And then I think, maybe that will go to help towards, the battle of winning the game. Now, taking a look at the midfield. This one was you could say tricky. So to speak, maybe not tricky, but it just in terms of who plays where and what. So obviously you can see here I've got Curtis Jones in the DM position, McAllister left central midfield, and Szoboszlai as right central midfield. Now, usually it'll be the other way around between Curtis and McAllister, and when Curtis Jones plays in that left central midfield position, he drifts out to the wings quite a lot. Personally, I don't want, this is again my own predicted lineup. If we were to play McAllister there, don't stick him out there on the wings, please. Don't do that. Get him into those central areas. Get him making those late runs into the box. Get him affecting play further up the field. Get him playing in those kind of attacking third positions where he can then, feed it to the strikers. And then I feel like in that attacking third position, because McAllister is actually decent at pressing, especially pressing from the front. It reminds me a bit like Naby Keita, to be honest with you. Naby Keita was actually really good at pressing from that midfield position, but helping out the attack in, becoming that fourth man who then kind of jumps in. I feel like he can be that player. And I feel like if he is that player, he's a lot more cuter, in my opinion, than a Curtis Jones in threading those kind of passes. So if that is the case, that's why I've gone with, McAllister as the left central midfielder, as opposed to putting Curtis Jones out there. When Jones is out there, again, like I said, you end up having like a line of like Robbo, Jones, Luis Diaz. I'm like, I don't need all three of you in this one position. Like, you can just chill. Do you get what I mean? Like, we need a bit more control in those central areas, and we don't need to be leaving so much gaps out there. Let the wingers do that. If you're going to have Robbo bombing up on that left-hand side, then obviously he can help out. And then obviously on the right-hand side, obviously you're going to have Gomez potentially there, or Trent if he does obviously come back. So yeah, that's why I feel like you should have both him, left central midfield, McAllister, and right central midfield. I think Szoboszlai, keep doing what you're doing, to be honest with you. He's the engine in the midfield. Yeah. I think the midfield, I feel like this will be the midfield, just might not be those positions. He'll probably swap it around, but I don't really want McAllister in DM. I just think he's getting bypassed too much. I don't think he can really play that role well, in my personal opinion. So yeah, maybe just swap it around. Jones, in my opinion, could be a little bit better. It's probably a little bit better defensively. And I think he'll be able to kind of control it better in that position than McAllister would, only because the way that we play with the DM in this Liverpool team is obviously a lot different than the way that McAllister's used to playing it, when he's with Argentina, or not even Argentina, with Brighton, should I say. I just feel like Jones might be able to do that role just a little bit better. But in the left central midfield role, I think that's where McAllister can really show what he's about. You guys, if you haven't already, make sure you check out my video speaking about McAllister. You guys already know I'm not really too happy with his performances so far. And I think there is more to come from him. But ultimately, you know, it might just be a positional change, a little tactical tweak here and there, and you'll be good to go. And as I mentioned, obviously, Szoboszlai, really just keep doing what you're doing. Over there, he's been the best midfielder that we've had so far this season. Do I want to see a little bit more from him? Yeah, maybe a little bit more in the attacking sense. He's good at driving with the ball and stuff like that. But I feel like at times, maybe again, it might just be a tactical thing. I don't feel at times he gets himself into too many positions to affect the attacking third. Again, if we don't need him to do that, then does it really matter? No. But I do feel like he can drive with the ball really, really well. So try and best utilize that, you know, 1-2s and things like that. Get him in those attacking third positions. Get him in and around the box taking shots, because we've seen what already by his goal that he scored. But also, if you look at his game, you know, at RB Leipzig, he's really good in that kind of right half eight kind of position / right wing, you know, position there. You know, when he's in those positions, I feel like he can affect play a lot better than he's doing currently. And then obviously, again, it's just about keeping solid really at the back. And this is where obviously the defense, where you don't have Robbo doing up one-man journeys on his left side. And then obviously when you've got Trent there, he's obviously coming inside and then vacating that position. Just keep your flat back four, man. Just keep your flat back four. Have them doing fullback roles. How about that? Football Manager settings. Fullback roles instead of wingback roles. Have them doing that instead. And then I feel like you'll get a lot better the defensive stability anyway, especially because that right central midfield position that Szoboszlai is going to play, I feel like it's going to be a bit tricky for him potentially if Paqueta's playing on that side, because he drifts quite a lot. And when he starts to drift, he's too good of a player for you to leave isolated. You know what I mean? In and around the box, he'll kill you. Do you get what I mean? He can find a pass, he can finish. You know what I mean? He can make those late runs into the box. So Szoboszlai might have a job to do on that right-hand side of the midfield. So, yeah, I feel like that's my, you know, predicted / the lineup I kind of want to see, if I'm being totally honest with you. And then last but not least, we have got the attack. I know all of you are probably thinking, why don't you play Darwin Núñez? I'm okay. I'd rather not. Let me see Cody Gakpo in there. We need someone kind of dropping in at times. As I mentioned before, especially against a team like West Ham, they will sit deep. They will sit deep and counter. You know, Núñez cannot do the sitting deep thing. Obviously, if they don't, then of course you're not going to see that before anybody says, oh, but if he does play and he scores like 100 goals or he scores 3 or 4 goals or whatever, I'm going to be like, oh, but he didn't know. It'll just be dependent on what West Ham then try and do. They will try to stifle us. We saw it at the game at the London Stadium, Cody Gakpo dropping off, getting himself that goal, spinning on that half turn, dribbling forward, shooting, boom. That's what I think we're going to need, because it's going to cause them, I think, a bit more issues than just having a guy who just runs in, but who tries to run in behind. If there's not enough space to do so, then you just kind of become rendered useless in that kind of position. And I also think with the physical battle that he's going to then have up against a Zuma, a Gerd, whoever's really, Emerson potentially helping out as well, they're going to try and get onto him. They are a bit like what we saw in one of his first games against, his very first game for Liverpool, where he got sent off against Crystal Palace. I can see West Ham trying to do the kind of similar thing. So I personally would go for Cody Gakpo instead. He didn't start during midweek. Darwin Núñez did. So that's what I would go with. I feel like he probably will go with Darwin Núñez up top, because we have seen the relationship between Núñez and Salah. Salah obviously speaks for himself. Diaz has obviously had a good start to the season, so deserves to stay there in that position. Diogo Jota Diogo Jota, really the only one, hasn't really been playing that well. But at the same time, could he play in this kind of game? Again, yes, because I just think this isn't the kind of game where we need runners. That's why. I don't feel like you need runners, because I don't feel like there's going to be any space to run. So the guys who prefer that kind of game, will they be useful in this kind of game? Again, it's all going to depend on what West Ham choose to do within this kind of match. So I don't know. I'm just going based off previous games, seeing how West Ham have played this season, seeing how they kind of set up against Manchester City as well. They obviously tried to nullify those spaces, but the difference between us and Manchester City, they're better at playing football than we are. So intricate passes, nice little neat plays, movement all across the pitch and stuff, all of that kind of stuff, they can do that, and they do that at like an elite level, whereas we don't do that. Well, we do, but we don't do it nowhere near, in my opinion, to an elite level. So I just feel like they would find it a bit easier to play against us as opposed to playing against, you know, a Manchester City. And obviously that is my lineup for for the game. Again, that's just my predicted lineup. Things might change, as I mentioned. Obviously, with Trent, we haven't seen Thiago, so I don't even bother talking about that guy at all. In regards to like West Ham, from the news I saw today, from everything I found out, Bowen, I believe he had a virus or something like that. He may or may not be fit. Cresswell, I believe, will still be out or / is a doubt. But again, dependent on by Sunday 2 p.m. So it'll be interesting to see if potentially Bowen does play. I predict he probably would play, or he's definitely making the bench, unless this virus is obviously a killer virus and he ain't going to be able to make it at all. But I feel like he's going to want to play, and if he does, he can obviously cause us really, really big problems in the game. Now, let me just share my screen for you guys. Boom, boom, boom. So obviously this is the head-to-head. Let's take a look at West Ham's fixtures. So obviously I'm going to use their last game against the last Premier League game against Manchester City. So this is kind of how I slyly envisaged them to actually set up in the game. If I'm being 100% honest with you guys, I feel like this is more or less what they're going to try and do against Liverpool. So obviously you've got Mikel Antonio up top, Bowen on the right, Ward-Prowse in that kind of 10/ central midfield position. So obviously he'll drop in both kind of positions, helping out defensively to then form a 3 with both Alvarez and Souček. And then obviously Paqueta obviously out there on that left-hand side. Kufal, Zuma again, and Emerson. And then obviously Areola in goal. Like I mentioned before, I generally just think it's going to be a case of, when I'm looking at their danger men, so to speak, there were a couple players I think I took a look at. In terms of like the danger men, obviously one of the main ones is, of course, it's going to be Paqueta. Let me just see if I can get him up. Let's stop sharing the screen. There we go, Paqueta. Yeah, as I mentioned before, very, very neat and tidy individual. Someone who can obviously play in that kind of left half space as well. He is going to drift. He's too talented of a player, to be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? I think West Ham know that as well, and they're going to try and potentially utilize him in a general sense, throughout this game. We're going to need to watch him, as I mentioned, playing on that side. Szoboszlai, I think he's definitely going to need to be switched on in this game to make sure that he just doesn't drift too much and start causing, effect. He's not relatively quick, so a Konate or Gomez obviously will be able to handle him in terms of pace and physicality. But in terms of just intricate stuff, yeah, them men are going to be baffled like there's no tomorrow. And that's why I need Szoboszlai to really be switched on, because he's going to have to be the leader out of the 3 on that kind of side. Then taking a look, James Ward-Prowse, danger man when he has the ball and he looks up. It's long. Corners, free kicks, dead ball type of situation, running onto a ball. It's long. It is very, 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 very long. It's like I don't really rate him too tough as a midfielder, but his technique in dead ball situations is, you cannot ignore that. It's a weapon itself. Do you get what I mean? It's a weapon itself. And if you give him chances from free kicks and stuff, I don't care who the goalkeeper is. He can beat anybody. I don't care who it is. Alisson, Schmeichel, Peter Cech, Van der Sar, Yashin from back in the day. I don't care. This guy can beat any goalkeeper in the entire world from his set pieces. So you definitely need to worry about him. But also, when he is in that midfield, he will make those kind of third man runs. He will make those late runs into the box. So you do need to just be a little bit careful with someone like a James Ward-Prowse in terms of, if he's to run off the back of anybody, yeah, man, that's going to cause problems, in the game. So we just need to be a bit, again, the midfield just need to be switched on, making sure they're watching their runners. And again, I do genuinely believe, but it could be completely different, that West Ham will try to sit a little bit and kind of just wait to see what Liverpool do, and then try and hit us on counters and stuff like that. And then obviously if they grow into the game, that's when you'll start seeing them play a bit more football. But that's kind of what I think they will do. Again, who really knows? And then they obviously got this guy, the guy who's been talking a lot, Mikel Antonio. I feel like with him, it's about if we give him the space in behind, he will try to exploit that, and they will try to exploit that because he is fantastic at getting teams up the field. I feel like people don't even rate it that much, but I do. I don't think he's that good of a striker, if I'm being 100% honest with you. But in terms of just certain fundamentals, he's got that in his locker. He's strong. He's quick. He's a bully. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, he's just one of those kind of players, and he's smart about it as well. Like, that's one thing I'll definitely give him. He's smart with certain things that he does. Do you know what I mean? And he's a tireless runner for the team. He will stretch our back line if we are not careful. And obviously, I feel like West Ham are going to obviously try and utilize him as best as they possibly can. But ultimately, we'll just have to wait and see. You know, we really will have to wait and see. If I just share my screen here again. Boom, boom. What I really want to do is show you guys the kind of lineup, our lineup, should I say, sorry, and just kind of show you kind of what I mean in regards to there we go. See if it's gonna boom, boom, boom. There we go. I feel like that is nice and clear for you guys to be able to see. Yeah, that's the one. So obviously, as I mentioned before, I don't want us playing like all up here, and then you've got like these two guys who are pushed up as well. And then obviously you've almost got like him playing in that position, and then he's always on like this kind of thing. You know, I don't realistically want to kind of see that, if I'm being totally honest with you, because he ends up having to do kind of this. This guy's almost there. He's covering God knows how many in positions. He might potentially no, because like I said, they will come in behind Antonio, balls over the top and stuff like that. Nah, it's just long. I just prefer, I beg, just kind of keep some type of a shape, you know, within the game. Obviously, there's going to be moments where we're going to need, you know, potentially to move out of these kind of shapes, but I just don't want too much. I don't feel like it's like almost like every player has a bloody free roam in the team sometimes, man. Robertson does what he wants on that kind of side. Obviously, I understand it to a certain degree, but at the same time, I just feel like that's where teams seem to always. The only reason why I understand it is because I see Manchester City do it. The problem is, and I keep saying this 101 times, they have this. Whoever that is, when it's usually Rodri or John Stones, they do this. So when you've got this guy who wants to almost tag team up here, and then this guy might slot into that midfield position like that, guess what? You've got this now. So then it looks a bit like this. Now you've got the double up on this kind of side here. Almost like you've got two strikers, but you've got like a double up here because this is usually Haaland, Cody Gakpo here. You've got the double up. Or they'll do it on the right-hand side, as an example, with Kyle Walker and whoever else is playing on that right-hand side. But usually now they might try and do it with Doku here in this position, and then whoever, you know, running on the outside, whatever. But they do it smartly. But again, it's all about movement and understanding. And that's something that I feel Liverpool have never, ever done. And especially more so in this kind of new style and in this new tactic, is that we don't do that. We'll just have it like where it's, as I mentioned before, it's this. Then obviously if he does the inverted thing every now and again, these two are left completely isolated. And obviously you've got now Alisson, who's kind of pushed up a little bit. He, again, as I mentioned, is on whatever the hell he's on that side. He can't seem to cover out on this left-hand side because he's too bloody tired. Whereas I feel like you should just have him in this attacking midfield. Bro, it's just all long, man. I'm tired of seeing him. I'm tired of being so vulnerable at the back there when I think it can be an easy solution that we can just kind of rectify. We don't need to do all of that, man. As I mentioned before, so Bozolai, he can be there. He can, even if he does this, even if you did do something like that, I still don't even mind. I'm not even going to be too fussed because I don't mind them. But then you can't have this guy doing too much of this. Then this is where I say you just have to be kind of clever with whatever it is that you're doing. But even if you do have Jones in that kind of pivot role, regardless, in that kind of position, I still feel that it might even turn into more of something like this at times, where it's Szoboszlai helping out in that defensive. I don't want to see Mac here at all. I fully don't want to see him there. Keep him here. Keep him so he can now start playing football with the Gakpos, with the Salahs, with the Diaz, Nunes, whoever's up top. Let them just do all of that kind of stuff. I'm good with that. So now you got like a 4-2-1-3 if you want, or 4-2-3-1, whatever you can, however you kind of want to put it. However you want to label it or whatever it might be. But either way, have McAllister here playing as well with Salah. He can link up very, very well with Mo Salah, man. I don't understand why that's not a thing. Dominic Szoboszlai is calm to do this kind of role, even though I don't want him to do that role. And I prefer if we had like a box midfield instead, if you were then going to do the inverted thing. But fair enough, if you're not then going to do it, just have Szoboszlai here where you can almost just play in that central midfield, well, right central midfield or right DM kind of position, whatever you want to call it, and then have these two here, good footballers. We saw what they kind of did against Wolves in that second half as well. Have those two there, and then have these four who can obviously play and connect. And then every now and again, you've got this guy running up here. I don't really want to see him too far up there because he's an absolutely crap crosser of the ball. But if he does go up there again, Robertson, just know, don't, if he goes here, Robbo, I don't want to see you when he's probably peeled. If he's probably making that late run as he sometimes drops into this position. I don't want to see you here as well, bro. Do you get what I mean? I don't need to see you there. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And I think that's, again, it's just about being smart with it. And I think these players should be smart enough to kind of understand, but then also the manager needs to be kind of telling them as well that in these kind of phases of the play, this is what you should be doing and that's what you should be doing, etc., etc. But at times, I just feel like he's not always realistically doing that. And that's what kind of bugs me when it does come to Klopp and seeing this system. But caveat, we've won and we're unbeaten. No one's going to say anything. We move. If we take a look at West Ham's. Guys, please make sure you like, please make sure you share, and please make sure you subscribe to the channel, please. If I just largen that up for you guys there. Boom. Let's get that up now. That's it. Boom. So obviously you guys can see here, this is what I think they might potentially do. Again, if Jarrod Bowen is fit and healthy to play, I feel like that's kind of the team that they would more than likely go with. Cresswell, again, I think he's a doubt, but again, things might change. But I feel like this is more or less what they would go with, as we saw earlier on. Again, he's going to probably try and come and shift into this kind of position. Do you know what I mean? And then it almost comes actually really like a 4-2-2, really and truly. They kind of do, in my opinion, could actually play that box midfield. Actually, if I'm being 100% honest with you, because he'll probably try and he won't go. He might be the furthest forward if Mikel Antonio drifts out to this area. Again, this is where Gomez needs to just be a bit careful. And then he might become the one. He can then obviously easily go out to that right-hand side. And then all of a sudden, you've got this where Mikel Antonio is out there on the left-hand side. Paqueta, he's obviously in and around there with Bowen, obviously. So he's going to try and feed those passes into him. Again, you don't want Ward-Prowse trying to play that ball because if he can see Mikel Antonio at that far post, he'll pick him out. He'll pick him out, man. Do you know what I mean? And I think we'll get some serious problems. The weaker area of that midfield, I feel like is the base, if I'm being totally honest with you. That's where I feel like we can hurt them if you've got McAllister kind of playing in that middle position between Alvarez and Souček, if those two are the ones who will play. And then their back line, I think, is kind of weak anyway. So when it comes to their back line, they'll be solid if they need to be solid. West Ham just always seem to be like that. If they need to be solid, they'll be solid. But I feel like we can penetrate that back line. I'm not going to say it's easy, but I feel like we could penetrate them. And I feel like if we get going, then, the game can be, just one of those kind of games. But as I mentioned before, obviously, Mikel Antonio here, at times they might try and just slot back into something like this, where you've kind of got put him there. Boom. So you kind of got that, when they're defending and stuff like that, he'll obviously help out here. Jarrod Bowen might be a little bit further ahead potentially. You've got Souček there. You've got Ward-Prowse who will slot back into that midfield. So then now they've got, five in midfield. And then Mikel Antonio just being the lone ranger up there. Obviously, he's waiting then for the runs from Jarrod Bowen, potential late runs from James Ward-Prowse, potential late runs again from Lucas Paqueta. We just got to be careful, I think, and just be smart with those kind of late runs if they are allowed to do so, because if they're allowed to do so, that's why I envisage, the problems for Liverpool. But ultimately, as I mentioned before, I do think it's going to be a very, very good game. I do think it's going to be interesting to see, really how Liverpool do, in this kind of situation. But in terms of my prediction for the game, I'm going to go with, what was the previous score again? Let me be a bit sneaky in them thing there. It's obviously 1-2-1, yeah. I'll show you guys the league table actually as well, so you guys can see what we're looking like heading into the game. So obviously it's the league table. We can go top. I don't know if Manchester City are playing before us. If they are, then they'll most likely make it 6 out of 6, which is crazy. I'm gonna go with. I'm on the fence with 2-2 or 3-2 to Liverpool. I'm on the fence. I know I don't like playing the fence. I'll pick one. 3-2. 3-2, 2 p.m. kickoff. I don't know why I said 2 p.m. kickoff, like that's gonna make any massive difference. Nah, you know what? 2-2. Nah. I'm gonna go 2-2. I'm gonna go 2-2 people. Yeah, that's my that's my scoreline. Is I think it will be 2-2 in this kind of game. I just feel like they'll hurt us at some point in time. But a part of me is thinking at the same time, if we can get the ball rolling, then I feel like a 3-2, 4-2, whatever that could be accomplished. But unfortunately, I'll sit on the fence at this one time and I'll go with a 2-2. Guys, let me know what you think in the comment section. Let me know your predicted score lines, your goal scorers. My goal scorers quickly will be, if I go based on my predicted lineup, then I'll say my goal scorers will be no Cresswell, so he'll do it right. Mohamed Salah and Gakpo. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section for me, please. And that is the end, obviously, of our match review. Again, stay tuned. Make sure you guys obviously heading over to the Jerry James show as well. I believe he will be doing a preview. I should be on there, guys, at some point for the watch along. So potentially catch me on there. And then obviously after the game, as per usual, I'll be doing my match review. So make sure you guys obviously go and check those things out. That's the end of the match preview. Drop your score predictions, drop your goal scorers in the comments below. I'm G, and we are out.